Imagine spending like weeks or maybe even months meticulously building this massive fortress to protect yourself.
Right, you're laying the bricks, pulling up the drawbridge.
Exactly. You feel totally secure. But then you take a step back and realize you haven't built a fortress at all. You've actually built a cage.
And you're the one locked inside.
Yeah. You're locked inside. You're holding the only key, and you are completely convinced that you're like winning a war.
It's just wild.
It really is. And welcome to today's deep dive, because that is exactly what is happening to the subject of today's analysis. A man we'll refer to under the pseudonym Zhang San.
Right, to keep things anonymous.
Exactly. So he thinks he's building this watertight legal defense to save his reputation. But the analytical notes we're looking at today, which honestly read like a psychological thriller crossed with some sort of bureaucratic dark comedy reveal, he is actively constructing his own digital prison.
He really is. It's the ultimate irony of cognitive dissonance and self-sabotage, honestly.
It totally is. We are going to examine the mechanics of how a desperate need for control can basically blind a person to the reality that their primary weapon is pointed squarely at themselves. And for you listening, I just want to remind you that while this sounds completely like fiction, it is a factual case study of human behavior, obsession, and, the bizarre traps we set for ourselves.
Yeah, the documentation on Zhang San is just this clinical look at obsession. So, just to set the stage, the subject recently received a severe disciplinary warning from his school.
And this was for inappropriate behavior. Right?
Exactly. And in response to this severe warning, he has begun obsessively screen recording someone else's YouTube channel.
Which is just a huge leap.
Right. And he isn't just saving like a quick clip or a screenshot. He has captured 15 separate videos, plus a full English interview.
Wow.
Yeah, we are looking at over 160 minutes of footage. And he believes this massive digital hoard is his quote unquote appeal material.
He seriously thinks this is going to save him.
He is operating under the absolute conviction that these videos are going to exonerate him. Like they will force the school to revoke his punishment.
Which, that makes no sense on the surface, because I'm looking at the profile of this YouTube creator he's recording, and the creator is completely anonymous.
Totally anonymous.
Yeah, and they actually use the pseudonym Zhang San in their videos just as a generic placeholder name, like to discuss abstract concepts of power and behavioral psychology.
Fictional narratives, that sort of thing.
Right. There is zero personal identifiable information about the real Zhang San in these videos. They are highly academic. So my immediate question is, like, how does his brain bridge the gap between this is a public abstract video essay and this is a direct personal attack that I can use in a formal school appeal?
Well, to understand that massive leap in logic, we really have to look at his behavioral history. Because the human brain is inherently lazy under stress.
Oh, for sure. We just default to whatever's easiest.
Right. When a person feels deeply threatened, like facing expulsion, their executive function, which is the part of the brain responsible for logic and nuance, it basically starts to shut down.
It just goes offline.
Exactly. And they revert to whatever survival tactic worked for them in the past. So in psychology, we sometimes refer to this as the inertia of a control tool system.
Okay, inertia of a control tool system.
Yeah, and the notes reveal that Zhang San has used a very specific control tool before against another individual referred to simply as 045.
Right, and the situation with 045 was this classic blackmail scenario. He basically recorded private, highly sexualized content of 045.
Yeah, he encrypted it, backed it up on multiple drives, and basically kept it as leverage.
It was a mechanism to maintain dominance over that person,
Honestly.
right? Through the fear of exposure. And it worked for him in that specific dark context. But applying that same tactic here, it feels like, I don't know, trying to use a TV remote to fly an airplane just because pushing buttons work to change the channel.
That is a perfect analogy. The context is entirely different, but the physical action provides the same psychological comfort.
The pushing of the button.
Exactly. With 045, gathering hidden information gave him actual leverage. Now, his amygdala is just panicking because of the school's warning. He feels totally powerless.
So he regresses.
He regresses to the familiar action, gathering hidden files, encrypting them, building a secret folder. He is taking a tool that functions in a private, manipulative context and applying it to a completely public academic domain.
Because he can't see the difference anymore.
He doesn't recognize the context shift because the fear overriding his system prevents him from processing new variables.
He's just mashing the volume button on the remote, convinced the plane is going to take off.
Yeah.
And I think the scariest part is the dopamine loop this creates. There is this concept of false control. And we all experience micro versions of this. Like, have you ever saved a bunch of screenshots of a toxic text conversation thinking you're going to use them to prove your point later?
Oh, absolutely, but you never actually use them.
Right. You never do. But just the physical act of saving them makes you feel secure.
You are touching on the exact neurological mechanism at play here. False control is this phenomenal illusion. As Zhang San watches that download progress bar fill up, as his encrypted folders get heavier with gigabytes of data, his brain receives a literal hit of dopamine.
It feels like progress.
The nervous system interprets the physical act of archiving data as taking action against the threat. It tricks him into feeling powerful and prepared.
Even though it's meaningless.
Exactly. The heavier the folder gets, the more agency he feels he possesses. And it completely masks the reality that the data he's hoarding has absolutely no utility.
I really want to push on that utility aspect, because sitting in a dark room hoarding data is one thing, but he actually plans to deploy this. Right?
He absolutely does.
He intends to present this 160 minutes of video to third parties. So psychologically, he feels armed to the teeth. But if he is so convinced this is his silver bullet, what happens when this material actually leaves his encrypted folder and meets the eyes of literally any other human being? Who is he even showing this to?
Well, the practical application is where the illusion completely disintegrates. He has three primary intended audiences for this evidence.
Okay.
Let's start with his parents. In his mind, he's going to sit them down, play these videos, and say, look, I am a victim of malicious defamation. This is why I am in trouble at school.
Okay, try to picture being those parents. You sit down expecting to see vicious cyberbullying, right? Like maybe someone posting his address or photo.
Right, something tangible.
But instead, you are subjected to hours of English academic jargon about narrative structures and behavioral archetypes, all directed at a generic placeholder name.
Yeah.
You aren't seeing defamation, you are seeing a stranger's homework assignment.
The parents are going to be profoundly confused. They will look at the screen, look at their son, and just wonder why he is spending his days obsessing over a detached academic analysis.
They're going to think he's lost his mind.
The empathy he expects will instantly be replaced by concern for his mental stability. He anticipates vindication but he's only going to generate alarm.
Man, that's rough. And then there's his second intended audience, which is the school's appeal committee. He wants to submit the folder to the administration and claim that these YouTube videos harmed his mental health, and therefore his severe warning should be revoked.
Right, but the timeline doesn't support this narrative at all. The chronology is entirely inverted.
Because the punishment came first, right?
Exactly. The school disciplined Zhang San for his own prior documented misconduct. The severe warning was an institutional response to actions he had already committed. Furthermore, the notes indicate that the YouTube creator didn't begin heavily updating their channel with these academic videos until after Zhang San had already received his punishment.
Wait, so you cannot appeal a disciplinary action by pointing to an event that happened weeks after the fact?
No, it's chronologically bankrupt. The committee will look at the dates and immediately dismiss the correlation.
It's like saying you crashed your car today because it might rain next Tuesday.
Exactly. And his third idea, going to the police or hiring a lawyer to claim an invasion of privacy, is equally flawed.
Because it's a public video.
Well, a legal claim of privacy invasion requires that private information was actually exposed. The creator goes out of their way to ensure complete anonymity. There are no names, no locations, no identifying markers.
Right.
From a judicial standpoint, there is no plaintiff and no tort. You just cannot prove an invasion of privacy when the material is deliberately stripped of anything private.
So I'm stuck on the cognitive dissonance here. If every single person he shows this to, his parents, the administration, the authorities, if they all just look at him like he has lost his mind, how does his brain sustain the narrative?
It's a strong delusion.
Yeah, like if you bring what you think is a smoking gun to 3 different experts and they all tell you it's a water pistol, doesn't the illusion have to break? Why doesn't he just stop? Isn't he just proving to everyone that he's completely unhinged?
Well, the illusion doesn't break because he has transitioned from defensive action to what we call defensive attention.
Defensive attention, what's the difference?
When an individual is healthy, they use defense mechanisms to neutralize a threat and then return to a baseline state of calm. They take action, they relax.
Okay.
Defensive attention, however, is a pathological hyperfixation. The perceived threat becomes the center of their universe. The brain filters out all contradictory feedback. So when his parents look confused, his brain doesn't register that his evidence is bad.
What does it register?
His brain registers that his parents just don't understand the quote-unquote complexity of the conspiracy against him.
Oh, wow. So the negative feedback actually reinforces his belief that he is the only one who sees the truth. He thinks he's presenting the profile of a wronged victim. But in reality, he is presenting the profile of someone driven by an unhealthy, uncontrollable obsession. He is dedicating massive amounts of energy to watching a completely detached academic analysis.
And looking foolish is actually the best case scenario for him here.
Wait, really? It gets worse.
Oh, it gets much worse. The reality of what he is doing is far more dangerous. His defense isn't just useless. It is structurally toxic to his survival at that school.
Okay, you're going to have to walk me through this.
So to understand the gravity of his mistake, we have to examine the digital regulations governing his network access.
Okay, let's lay out the mechanics of this trap, because the platform where these academic videos are hosted is YouTube, right?
Right.
And in mainland China, where Zhang San is located, YouTube is blocked by the Great Firewall. So accessing it requires utilizing a virtual private network, or a VPN, to bypass domestic internet regulations.
And utilizing unauthorized VPNs to circumvent the firewall is a direct violation of local digital policies.
It's a big deal.
It carries documented academic and sometimes legal consequences. It is a strict boundary set by both the institution and the wider infrastructure.
Okay, and the notes reveal a really crucial detail about his original punishment. The school issued the severe warning for behavioral misconduct. However, the administration was already fully aware of his internet habits.
Yes.
They had data showing he was frequently and in high volumes using unauthorized VPNs to bypass the firewall. But they chose not to include the VPN violation in the official disciplinary notice. Why would they do that?
Well, bureaucracies often prioritize efficiency over absolute thoroughness.
They just wanted to save time.
Exactly. Perhaps they lacked the definitive, timestamp proof needed to make a secondary charge stick without a lengthy investigation. Or maybe they simply wanted to keep the paperwork straightforward. The behavioral charge was enough to issue the severe warning, so they just left the VPN usage off the official record.
Wow, and this is where the logic of self-incrimination becomes staggering to me. Because Zhang San's master plan is to take 160 minutes of high-definition YouTube screen recordings, put them on a drive, and hand them directly to the school administration to prove he's a victim.
He is oblivious to the medium because he is entirely consumed by his own message.
Wait, so by trying to clear his name, he is literally handing the administration time-stamped, high-definition video proof of his own ongoing rule violations.
Yes. When he hands over that drive, the administration is not going to analyze the abstract narrative theories in the videos. They will look at the metadata. They will see gigabytes of material downloaded from a blocked overseas platform.
He is walking into the principal's office and saying, I know I am already on a severe warning, but here is physical evidence that I've spent the last several weeks intentionally and repeatedly breaking the school's digital network policies.
He is doing their investigative paperwork for them.
That's insane.
He provides the exact undeniable proof the school previously lacked or just chose to ignore. You have to remember, in any bureaucratic disciplinary system, a severe warning is essentially a probation period.
And the one rule of probation is that you don't commit another violation.
Right. But by submitting this appeal, he shifts from being a student on thin ice to a student who is actively drilling holes in the ice beneath his own feet.
So what happens? Does his punishment escalate automatically if he submits this? Like, what is the procedural outcome?
The notes indicate this would trigger an instant upgrade in disciplinary action. The evidence is irrefutable because he provided it himself.
They can't unsee it.
Exactly. The administration would be forced to escalate his status from a severe warning to a major demerit, which carries far heavier consequences for his academic record and could potentially lead to suspension.
So he believes he is meticulously gathering materials to build a fortress of defense, but he is painstakingly packaging his own guilty evidence.
It is a self-inflicted wound disguised as a surgical strike. The absolute inability to view his actions from an external perspective is just chilling.
He is so focused on winning the argument in his head that he has lost total sight of the physical reality of his environment.
Which is why the source text utilizes a very specific literary comparison here. They describe his behavior as Don Quixote fighting the windmills.
Don Quixote, the quintessential symbol of delusion, right? Like he reads too many tales of chivalry, loses his grip on reality, and decides he's a knight errant.
Right, he sees a field of ordinary windmills, but his brain processes them as ferocious giants.
Yeah, and he charges at them with his lance, gets caught in the massive sails, and is violently thrown to the ground. He's defeated entirely by a threat that only existed in his own mind.
Exactly. Now, Quixote was delusional, but his actions were fairly straightforward. He saw a threat and he attacked it.
Right.
Zhang San's situation takes the pathology of delusion a step further. He isn't just fighting an imaginary giant, he is weaponizing the environment against himself.
I mean, if we stretch the metaphor to fit Zhang San, it would be like Don Quixote setting up a camera, recording himself trespassing on the windmill property and vandalizing the equipment.
Yes.
And then Quixote takes the tape to the local windmill manager, slams it on the desk, and demands compensation for being attacked. And the manager watches the tape and says, thanks for providing crystal clear evidence of your own vandalism and trespassing. You're under arrest.
That is exactly it. The addition of the bureaucratic self-sabotage is what elevates this from a simple delusion to a structural tragedy.
It's unbelievable.
And we should also consider the perspective of the YouTube creator here. The person the notes refer to as the AI trainer. Zhang San operates under the assumption that he is locked in this high-stakes mutual warfare with his creator.
He probably thinks every time he hits download, the creator senses a disturbance in the force. Like he thinks he is applying serious pressure.
He really does. But the reality is profoundly one-sided. The creator is completely insulated. The videos adhere to platform guidelines, they utilize anonymized placeholders, and they function strictly as academic observations.
So they're entirely safe.
Entirely safe. To the creator, Zhang San is not an adversary. He's a data point. The creator is just safely sitting back, observing a live, real-time case study of a subject transitioning from defensive attention into pure, unfiltered self-destructive behavior.
The creator is just taking clinical notes on a man meticulously tying his own knots.
Precisely.
Given everything we've unpacked here, the social alienation waiting for him with his parents, the logical failure of the appeal timeline, and the catastrophic VPN self-incrimination, is there any actual strategy that saves him? Like, what is the correct move on the chessboard for him?
The only viable strategy in this entire matrix of terrible choices is complete inaction.
Just doing nothing.
Silence is his only safe harbor. He must stop bypassing the firewall. He must stop watching the channel. He must delete the screen recordings, abandon the idea of an appeal, and simply accept the existing severe warning.
Take the L.
Yeah, by keeping his head down and allowing time to pass, he survives the probationary period.
So the only winning move is not to play. But everything we have discussed about the inertia of his control tools and his dopamine-driven false control, it tells me he is fundamentally incapable of making that choice.
You're right. Silence requires an acceptance of vulnerability. It requires sitting with the discomfort of the severe warning and admitting he has no leverage.
And his ego just won't allow that.
His cognitive dissonance will not allow that kind of ego deflation. The obsession demands forward momentum, even if that momentum is carrying him directly off a cliff.
Wow.
He will continue to convert a manageable warning into a permanent demerit because his brain absolutely refuses to process the reality that his shield is actually a blade pressed against his own throat.
Man, every gigabyte he saves is another nail in his own academic coffin. It really is a modern tragicomedy. He thought he was fighting a war to save his reputation, but he was actually just the star witness in his own prosecution. The harder he tries to fight, the deeper he sinks into the trap of his own making.
It serves as a stark clinical demonstration of how the desperate need to prove oneself right can completely override basic survival instincts. When narrative control becomes more important than situational awareness, self-destruction is almost guaranteed.
Which I think leaves us with a broader psychological question for you, the listener, to mull over on your own. We can analyze the extremity of Zhang San's choices, sure, but the underlying mechanisms exist in all of us. Think about a time you were entrenched in a conflict, maybe at work or in a relationship. Have you ever found yourself meticulously gathering evidence, hoarding old emails, or building a defense in your head just to prove you were unequivocally right?
We all do it to some extent.
We do. We construct these elaborate cases to protect our egos. But how often do we pause to evaluate if the armor we are putting on is actually a cage of our own obsession? Does the intense need to control the narrative sometimes become the very thing that destroys our peace? Something to examine closely the next time you feel the urge to start gathering ammunition against a windmill.